Let me catch. I'm very nervous, y'all, so I'm sorry. It's just the camera. It's weird. Good morning. Like I said, my name is Bradley Stone. I'm the coordinator down at Fleet Services here for the city of Concord. I typically handle entry-level drivers training for the city. That CDL applicants, they must attend the training in order to get their CDL by federal law. I also do defensive driving 4-hour, defensive driver 1-hour refresher, ATV golf cart, forklift, scissor lift, and articulated boom lift. Those are also license you on. So if we're interested in any of that, please let me know. So now that my sales pitch is over, we can begin today's class, which is the 4-hour initial defensive driving.
In this course on defensive driving, you're going to learn important skills and techniques to help you become a better driver. Let's start with the name, defensive driving. In any sport, playing defense is important because it's something you can control. And every champion knows you can't win without a powerful defensive game. To lose a game is one thing, but every single day on our roads, around 100 people lose their lives. 100 people a day. 40,000 lives a year lost, when many of them could have been saved using the skills of defensive driving. Traffic fatalities are so common that we've become used to the headlines. They don't shock us anymore. But imagine what would happen if every day we turned on the news and heard that a plane crashed with 100 people on board. There'd be investigations held and changes made. People would demand solutions. The National Safety Council is working hard to become part of the solution to our tragic traffic death toll. One way we're doing this is to teach drivers, like you, about the essentials of becoming good defensive drivers. Because we all share the road every day with people who aren't just other drivers. They're fathers and mothers, children and friends and co-workers. People like you who love their lives and are loved and would be missed. That's why we say, and why we ask you to remember, at any moment, a choice you make can change your life forever.
All right, so as they said, every day 100 people lose their lives in automobile accidents. So that means during the 4-hour class today, approximately people will lose their life. So that's a very stark thing to think about in reference to how much traffic that we really utilize in the, in the duties of our job here at the City of Concord. So there's several things that we're going to discuss during today's curriculum. It's outlined deadly choices. So those are choices that we make behind the wheel that can risk our life every day. Please open your student guides to page 1. All right, on page 2, there's the first practical exercise. So please, on a scrap sheet of paper, what you're going to do is we're going to look at the 10 driving behaviors listed on the chart, and then you're going to score yourself. 0 being I never conduct this activity or do this activity, or 4, I always do this activity while driving. Take a minute, paper 1 to 10, and do a quick self-assessment. Now, if you look back at the screen, according to the self-assessment, see the speed limit. So this would be one of those things where it's going to be a frequently to an always score, What this class is about, you're looking at something, it's just to draw your attention to some of these things that you may be doing, and honestly taking a look in the mirror. Number 10, I can control what other drivers or road users do around me. Here's another big one. It's part of that it's not about what it is you're doing behind the wheel. Else, everything right, and just at the wrong place at the wrong time. We'll come back to this chart again. All right, so the 6 I spoke of earlier, going too closely, distracted driving, turning improperly, driving left of center, and violating the right-of-way. These are the topics of today's discussion and class, with an overall theme of every behavior is a choice. Turn to page 4 in your booklets, please. Before we get into the factors that are in our control, we're going to talk about factors that are beyond our control. So we have another chart on here. Take a few minutes and orient yourself. Top left is on control. Moving down is visibility, weather, road conditions, and other users of the road. In the event of visibility issues, off to the right on the chart is our technique with them, such as wearing sunglasses when it's sunny, utilizing our visors, window tint, prescription sunglasses when driving, things like that. Again, with weather, if you want to check in that block, there's several different techniques of dealing with weather and adverse conditions. And again, down at some other users of the road, we will discuss several different ways of dealing with other users of the road. All right, first one, road conditions.
As a driver, you know that every one of your behaviors behind the wheel is a choice you make each time you drive. Your behaviors are factors that you can control. But what about the things drivers have to face that aren't in anyone's control? Every day on the road, drivers encounter factors that are potential hazards. These include changing conditions, the weather, for example, with rain or sun glare in your eyes. Changing conditions like construction zones, potholes, or debris on the road. Hazardous changing conditions can include other drivers, bicycles that seem to appear out of nowhere, and of course, pedestrians. Other factors that affect your driving include conditions like hidden driveways, blind curves, roundabouts, curved or winding roads, unimproved or dirt roads, and many more. Now, we'll take a look at some general techniques that will help you cope with the factors beyond your control as a driver. The key thing to remember is pay attention. Whether you're encountering problems with visibility, the weather, road conditions, or other users of the road. Number 1, reduce speed. If you're in a work zone, in a bad visibility situation, or dealing with other drivers or with pedestrians, reducing your speed gives you the flexibility to anticipate hazards and gives you the time and space to avoid a potential collision. Don't be in a hurry on the road. Number 2, increase your following distance by at least 1 second for every condition that's less than perfect. Add even more distance for small vulnerable vehicles and vehicles with large blind spots. Be sure to allow extra space for trucks or buses when you merge in front of them. Increasing your distance creates a little additional space around your vehicle, like your own personal safety buffer. Number 3, stay alert. This means pay attention and also anticipate. Monitor road conditions ahead of you, look a couple of blocks in front, or scan to the next curve. Just assume that pedestrians are going to step into the road without warning, or that bicycles are going to dart into your lane, and make sure you have time and room to react. Number 4, use your hazard lights when necessary, if your vehicle is disabled or off the roadway. Hazard lights serve as a warning signal to other drivers and help you protect them and yourself. Also, be sure to watch what is approaching from behind your vehicle. There are always going to be conditions and hazards out of your control as a driver, but these are some of the techniques that can help you stay safe.
Okay, so again, they gave us several different tools that we can utilize during unimproved road conditions or respecting road conditions, such as reducing your speed. I like to throw in another one, it's reduce distractions. Have something going on, maybe it's raining, maybe we're going through a construction zone. Anytime you have anything that's not a perfect highway on a perfect, bright North Carolina day, you want to reduce your distractions, you want to reduce your speed, and increase your following distance. The three main reasons of why all automobile crashes happen every day. It's distractions, it's traveling too fast for road conditions, or following too closely for conditions. So speeding, tailgating, and distractions. You reduce those three and you're already a step ahead. They also added in utilizing your hazard lights, so that's communication devices. And again, we're going to discuss each one of these in depth in the next couple of sessions. All right, on your page 5 in your student guide, there's a couple of questions pertaining to this video. So as we watch the video, please go ahead and read those questions and just on your scratch sheet of paper, answer along.
Not one of the over 100 people who pull out of their driveways every morning thinks, "Today, I'm going to be a car crash fatality statistic." But that is in fact the reality for over 40,000 Americans each year. These traffic deaths are a tragedy, and the toll on the families involved is truly incalculable. This is Tom Geltz and family. On February 29, 2016, Tom and his wife Wendy were waiting for their daughter Megan to come over after work. The mother of a young daughter, Megan was 13 weeks pregnant with her second child, a son. The phone rang. Wendy answered.
It ended up being Regions Hospital in St. Paul, Minnesota. They told her that Megan had been in a car crash and we needed to get to the hospital immediately. I got mad. I figured that kid wasn't a good driver herself. She was 22 years old and she probably totaled my car and I was gonna wring her neck when I got to see her.
Megan had been on her way home, stopped at a stop sign wearing her seatbelt, when a car lost control, crossed the center lane into oncoming traffic, hit the shoulder, rolled through a ditch, and came up on an embankment where it went airborne and sheared off the top of Megan's car.
They asked if we wanted to see her. We had to identify the body, and so they brought her into the room. I touched her hand, and it was still warm. And we prayed and we cried and we talked to her. And when they took her out of the room, I touched her hand again, and it was cold, and I knew she was never coming back. At that point, I knew as a safety consultant I had to do something about vehicle safety and traffic crashes.
The accident report stated that the other driver admitted to driving distracted. The police conducted an alcohol test, but ordered no other toxicology tests. And although hospital tests later that same day revealed that the driver was impaired on illegal drugs, this information was not admissible in court because the tests had not been ordered in the field.
The man who killed my daughter walked away from the crash scene. He was taken into custody for a brief period of time and released on his own recognizance, and he's out and about driving around amongst all of you right now. And as you drive around, you can see thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people driving around just like that, distracted. They're everywhere. And you have to pay attention. You have to pay attention because you have to avoid these people. Now we have a cross that sits at that intersection. Our friends say it looks nice. There's flowers there and pictures there. How many crosses are there across the United States that we see on our roads, on our interstates and our highways? We see them all over the place. I never really gave them much thought before. Now, everyone that I go by, I say a little prayer for that person because, you know, people died there. Don't let this be you.
All right, so again, that's exactly what we just discussed, right? Same scenario. You're at the right place, you're doing the right thing, but you're just at the wrong time. Somebody else is doing the wrong thing is permanently a change in that individual's. For question number one, and I usually don't spend a whole lot of time on this, but how were Megan and John Boyle killed? Obviously, they were victims of a fatal crash. Obviously, we already are tracking what caused the crash. But again, the situation, you know, that individual just walked away from it. You know, there was no, they didn't smell alcohol, they didn't see any evidence of alcohol. He passed his test or whatever happened, but it comes out, you know, later on that it was drugs. So very unfortunate situation, happens every day all across America. So that's why we're trying to draw attention and just ensure that you know what to do in the event of an incident like this or that can hopefully prevent it. And education is the number one thing we can do. So defensive driving, our definition, defensive driving is driving to save lives, time and money in spite of the around you and the actions of others. Defensive driving is the personal responsibility of everyone who operates or rides in a motor vehicle. Would you agree with this statement? I would agree that it's everybody's decision or everybody's responsibility, absolutely. On page 6, that's that definition right there at the top of the page for you. And then here's another one, which is preventable collisions. A preventable collision is a collision to do everything reasonable to avoid it. Here at the City of Concord, we have the Incident Review Board. All right, it's where we have to sit down and make a decision. Any incidents involving a piece of equipment. Was this incident preventable? Okay, so unfortunately, should you find yourself in the event of having to attend one of these, that's exactly what they're going to look at. Did you do everything reasonable to prevent this incident? 9 times out of 10, you know, it's preventable. All right, down below, NSC, that's a National Prevention Form. Okay, it's just a nice reminder, like the state of North Carolina has RU. This is another one of those, RUA. Are you a defensive driver? So the R stands for recognizing the hazard. And if you read below that, it gives you a couple of different steps in recognizing the hazard. Number 2, understanding the defense. And 3, acting correctly. So that's what it's all about. Understanding that these hazards exist, right? This is what's out there. Wake up. These are the things that are going on around you every day when you're driving, whether you're aware or not. 2, understanding what is the defense when one of these hazards arises. Okay, and 3, acting correctly in time. That means doing the right thing in the right amount of time, which you can't do if you're distracted, correct? See how it all comes back together, right? All right, so that concludes this lesson. Pausing for video. Does anybody have any questions over anything that we've covered so far in lesson 1? No questions. Also, real quick, while we have it paused, we like to take a 10-minute break on the hour, so we're halfway there. I apologize, got off kind of a rough start this morning. I'm nervous for some reason. I'm doing okay right now, so I had to throw that out there. I apologize. I usually start off so rocky, but anyways, we're rolling. Okay, page 7. On page 7, we have another one of these charts. This chart is concerned with our occupant safety. So when you're in the vehicle in the drive, El Capitan, you're in charge, right? You make the rules. So that's what this chart is going to help you do, okay? First things first, make sure all older children properly buckle their seatbelts. Of course, everyone has to wear their seatbelt. It's a zero tolerance policy, okay? Do not get caught riding around without the seatbelt. All right, you want to make sure that any infants or children are properly restrained in accordance with your local law. We'll discuss that on the next page. close and lock all doors and tailgates, keep the front seat backs upright, and properly adjust your head restraint. All this stuff we're going to talk in detail in a little bit later, but again, that's just a quick checklist that you should be running over to make sure that everything's good before you move the vehicle. Next page, we just spoke about child safety. This is a really good chart if anybody wants to take a picture of it. Maybe you have young ones at home, you have a child that's expecting their first child. Maybe you're in the market for a new kind of car seat or anything like that, and you need to know what to do. This is a really good chart, but also we have a really good resource as well. Any fire station that you go to here in the Concord has firemen and women that have been trained how to properly put these seats in. They can inspect yours to make sure it's already been installed properly. Again, if you get a new one, they can show you how to hook it up. So again, I remember when I first got my first car seat for my son, I didn't know what I was doing, but I knew that, and my pride was not gonna let me not. So about 5 hours afterwards, I went to my mom, and she came and showed me how to do it. All right, so don't be that individual. You know, if you need help, go ahead and ask for it. It's much better to have it done properly than to just guess. All right, so that covers occupant safety. So now we're gonna roll into vehicular safety. So it's an amazing world we live in right now. Cars do almost everything to include drive for it. Me personally, I don't want my car doing anything I'm not telling it to do. So the main thing is to be aware of what exists. Your department just got a brand new vehicle, 2023 Ford F-250, and it has all the gizmos and gadgets on it, but you've never had a vehicle that has it. So how do you operate it? What do you do when that vehicle is fighting you because you're swerving in the lane, but it doesn't want you to because you don't have your blinker on? Have anybody seen that? Has a car that has that? That lane assist, it won't let you swerve. But what if you're trying to swerve for a pothole? Blinker on to tell everybody you're getting over because you're not getting over. You see what I mean? So it's kind of a catch-22. So this is a good resource, www.mycardoeswhat.org. All right, what it does is look up any model of vehicle and it talks about the safety features of that vehicle. So we're going to watch a video on it in a second, but again, maybe you're in the market for a new vehicle. Maybe you have a loved one that's in the market and you want to make sure that you get the safest thing on the road, or maybe you're a victim I just described. You have a vehicle that you can't operate because it's telling you you can and can't do. My wife's car is like that. I can't stand to drive it. But again, a really good resource.
You already know about the importance of seatbelts, airbags, and side mirror indicators. In this video, we're going to show you some of the newer safety mechanisms that cars offer today. And for more information, you can check out this website at mycardoeswhat.org. Let's take a look at one of the most important safety features on new cars, the lane departure warning.
Lane departure warnings camera reads lane markings and alerts you when you drift out of your lane with sound, visual icons on the dash, or vibration in the steering wheel or seat. This feature does not work when the turn signal is activated.
The forward collision warning feature has saved many lives and helped drivers avoid a lot of property damage too.
The forward collision warning feature monitors the traffic ahead and may detect if you're about to crash into another car. If the system detects that a hazard is in your path, it warns you to brake with flashing lights, warning tones, and other visual alerts displayed on the dashboard or windshield. Brake or steer to safety, and always use a safe following distance, at least 3 seconds, to reduce the risk of a crash.
Auto emergency braking. This feature has prevented innumerable collisions.
If this feature detects that a hazard is in your path, it warns you to brake with flashing lights, warning tones, and other visual alerts displayed on the dashboard or windshield. If you don't respond to the warning by braking or steering to safety in time,
this feature will automatically apply the brakes and may slow down or stop the car to help minimize or avoid a crash.
always stay focused on driving.
Finally, the blind spot monitoring feature takes a lot of anxiety out of sharing the road.
The blind spot monitoring feature alerts you when another vehicle enters your blind spot. A warning icon lights up in the side mirrors or on the windshield post, also known as the A-pillar. If you engage the turn signal, the warning icon will blink, and you may also hear an alert. Always look over your shoulder and use turn signals before changing lanes.
There are many additional safety features, parking assist for example, that you can select as options when you purchase your new vehicle. Go to the My Car Does What website to learn more.
All right, so again, they're just reiterating what we had already discussed. My car does the same thing. So it reads the lines on the road. That's exactly what they do. Well, where I live, there's a lot of places where the lines are not very visible just from age. They haven't been repainted. I don't live in the city of Concord, so I'm just saying. But anyways, but if you're going on around the road and there's an exit ramp, it can read that lane. I've had a friend who let me know that his vehicle has tried to take the off-ramp several times with that automatic driving assist. So again, it's all about awareness, being aware of what your vehicle can do, whether or not that's a tool that you want to utilize or it's a feature that you need to disable because you don't like what it's doing to the vehicle while you're operating. Again, you're the captain of the ship. So are there any questions over mycardoeswhat.org? Awesome, amazing. Page 11 in the student guide, we're just gonna keep rolling through. So who's on the road? So page 11 it's going to discuss the types of driver attributes based on age and maturity. So what they're wanting you to take from this is typically that an older driver would be a more experienced driver. A younger driver would be a less experienced driver, just because of the amount of time they have behind the wheel. But they also bring up an older person may have slower reflexes because they're getting older, and a younger person may have faster reflexes, or an older person may have worse vision for driving, and a younger person may have better vision. But again, those are just assumptions. That's not always the case. It's just the typical, that you would assume that drivers have. Next page, page 12. Okay, so page 12, they're not only talking about their physical attributes, they're talking about your reactional and emotional and mental conditions as well. That page up with emotional and mental reactions have significant impact on ability to drive. Stressful situations such as tailgating, heavy traffic, large vehicles can make us nervous, frustrated, or even angry. Those feelings can make us drive aggressive or even make you tense up. Create a plan to gain control. So just to sum that whole page up, what it's talking about is your self-talk, right? Whatever it is that you do for you in a stressful situation, right? So it doesn't matter. They use reflect, reframe, refocus later on in the presentation, but you're already stressed out. It's time to try to remember a 3R word acronym. No, you want to fight somebody, you're angry or you're freaked out or you're scared. So whatever it is that you do, that's what they're saying. My wife, as an example, a lot, she's aware, but it's just something I do. She lost her father to a semi-truck accident when she was younger. So first, that's just her thing. She white knuckles it every time she's around a semi-truck. So again, it's something to work on. If she sees it coming, maybe I'll put my hand on her leg or something like that, But it's whatever you have up there. If you know that you have that trigger, if you will, just come up with a plan. Create a plan of what to do, even if it's what you have to do to handle your situation. All right, so continuing with the theme of other road users, on page 13, we have a wonderful diagram of the blind spots of a semi-truck or a large vehicle. Again, coming from the background of large vehicles, I really like to harp on this with the smaller vehicle folk, if you will, just because you don't always get to see it from their point of view. So that's a really wonderful diagram of their blind spots. It's a lot more than you think, but just so you know, we do have mirrors that kind of offset some of those. But you're not only dealing with large vehicles, you're dealing with slow-moving vehicles. Out there where I live in Locust, there's always a tractor around, right? We're in their way too. But there's also buses. Those are very slow-moving. They have to stop every city block. You've got mopeds, bicyclists, walkers, pedestrians, runners, all kinds of things you have to worry about. Again, it's moving at that same thing. Whenever you have an unimproved road condition, that could be a large group of people, a pedestrian, a bicyclist in the lane, a UPS truck on the side, anything that's unimproved, that's not a perfect drive, beautiful North Carolina sky, you always want to reduce those distractions. You want to reduce your speed. All right, so speaking about our large vehicles, on page 14, there's a chart that talks about your total stopping distance. Just to orient you with that chart, down at the bottom is your guideline, your key. In the solid black bar is going to be your perception distance. The gray bar is your reaction distance, and the red bar is the braking distance, for a total of your total stopping distance. The funny thing about the total stopping distance equation is the first two ingredients deal with humans, right? It's a part of you. The one that's red, that's your vehicle, that's your equipment. So if you get into an accident, you're like, what happened? Well, my truck wouldn't stop. You know, I hit the brakes, my truck wouldn't stop. Well, it's not. The vehicle can only do what the vehicle can do, right? But your perception, how long it takes you to realize something's wrong, and then how long it takes your brain to make your foot move from the gas to the brake, that's about in your perception and your reaction distance. All right, on page 15, talking about school buses, slow-moving vehicles, and dealing with motorcycles. We're not going to go through every single one of them. I usually just pick one. You can feel free to read through. But dealing with school buses, super important, right? You have to be aware that they're out there. They've got their signals. Whenever you're aware of a school bus is in the area, you always want to slow down, reducing distractions. You have no idea where their next stop is going to come. You have no idea what's coming on, what's coming off. So again, they could be crossing the street. It doesn't matter, state law, it does not matter which side of the highway you're on. You have to stop at a stop bar, all right? And that's what it's called, a stop arm violation if you do not. Again, slow-moving vehicles, they're entitled to the roadway just like we are. You have to reduce your speed greatly around tractors and other slow-moving vehicles. Up in the city, it's more likely you're going to be dealing with motorcycles or mopeds or bicyclists than you will a tractor, but again, not yet. We're almost there. Page 19. All right, so emergency vehicles. All right, so they have a saying, it's slow down, move over, or get pulled over. I think that's but again, this slide is talking about what to do dealing with an emergency vehicle. You hear the sirens, you don't know where it's coming from, right? So you're not just immediately going to slam on brakes, because it could be coming from behind you, and now you're slamming on brakes right in front of them, correct? So this is just going to describe what to do. I'll take you through it without reading verbatim, but essentially I hear the siren. I'm going to remove my foot from the accelerator pedal in preparation to slow down. That has already increased my reaction time. Identify which direction that the sirens are coming from, correct? Now, if they're behind me, or excuse me, if they're coming from in front of me, then all I need to do is move over and get out of the way, correct? If they're coming from behind me, now that's the scenario that there could be one or two things to do. If I'm approaching an intersection, do I just stop in the middle? Absolutely not, you cannot. You're going to proceed through that intersection, and then when it's safe to do so, you'll pull over to the right. Again, if it's a multi-lane road, how many lanes? So there's 100 different scenarios. Here's one that we talked about. You've located the emergency service vehicle. Fortunately, it's in front of you and it's off to the right. So all we're going to do is reduce our speed. It says usually it's 20 miles lower than the posted speed limit, but again, going down and moving over. If there's a vehicle blocking your way, again, I mean, they know the rules as well. They should be getting out of your way, but if not, you have to slow down. You have to let these individuals have space to work. Of working, a diagram of what a perfect work zone would be. This is another improved workways or roadways, excuse me, just like as if you had an emergency service vehicle. Downtown, Union Street, okay, I'm sorry. And it's not our guys, Hawks. They're horrible. You might see a guy on a tailgate with one cone, okay? That's a work zone to them, so be careful, all right? But in the perfect world, what they're gonna do is they're gonna create a buffer. They're first gonna tell you that something's happening with all those signs. You know, the right lane ahead's closed. It's probably 7 miles out. Nobody pays attention to that last minute. For no reason, right? Don't be that individual. What I do, embarrass my wife. I block traffic. And if you're lucky, somebody else will see what you're doing and they'll join in. So then you'll have a row of cars blocking, and then all the people behind, they get so mad. It's wonderful. I love it. But don't do that, okay? Again, back to the work zones. The indication, hey, something's happening up the road. And then that's your indicator to slow down and start reducing those distractions, right? Let's cut the radio down. Let's tell the kids in the back, something's going on up here, I need to pay attention, right? The next thing you'll probably have is some type of taper. They have to start to create that workspace, right? They can't just start work right here. So they're tapering, and then they'll have some type of jersey barriers or protection for their employees. But at the end of the day, anytime you have a work zone or any type of indicator that something's going on, the 3 answers to the test are reducing the speed, reducing the distractions, and increasing your following distance. That's 3 answers to every. Okay? Just pause for the. Sorry, I feel weird, y'all. I'm sorry. I have to take longer than normal pauses so they can edit. Anyways, all right. So none of these activities because they're not going to be in there, so they would just be watching y'all do the activity. So go ahead and get out your scrap sheet of paper. We're going to go and do an activity. As you can see, the title of the activity is Find the Hazards. Again, I have some really good zingers that I'm not throwing out to y'all, and stories, you're missing it because it wouldn't do it just in the video, but I'm letting some of them go in. All right, so throughout the video, we're only going to watch 2 of them because they get a little redundant. And you just, as many as you identify roadway hazards. And at the end, we're going to see who's got the most. So it is a competition, not a prize. Except education, #1 prize today. No, I'm kidding. Oh, that was horrible. Oh, let me just get to my cheat sheet over here. All right, scenario 1. What do you see? And you can just shout it out. We're not going to take school. Anybody?
People crossing the road.
Absolutely. There were several people that were crossing the road. No rhyme. It's like you'll see downtown. What do? They're late for the meeting. They're trying to get to lunch. Darting across the street. They're not paying attention. So we have to pay attention for them, correct? What else did we see? In the very beginning, I think I saw a lot of stuff going on in the very beginning. There's a lot of semi-trucks in a line on the left, and then absolutely nice. The kid. I definitely noticed the kid. They threw the ball, and it happens all the time. Quick story. You know what I did? We used to live in a cul-de-sac, and I took my daughter. They used to have this habit, the sidewalk. They would just stand there behind people's cars and talking in the neighborhood. So what I did was I took her outside, and I got my older daughter, and I put her in the driver's seat of her mom's car. And of course, she's on her knees, and I got the mirror adjusted to where I said, you can see everything, right? And I got down in the back. I said, you can see me, right? And I said, okay, where's your sister? And she's like, oh, I don't see her at all. And I just cannot see. You can't see you guys. So again, kids, huge thing. They're always going to be darting in and out of traffic. They don't know any better. So we got to be watching out for them, right? All right, so we saw that. I definitely saw some road construction, a lot of cones and semi-trucks. So great job, outstanding. Let's shoot over to, this is a little more city. Oh yeah, Yeah, that's pretty. I don't know where they're driving around, but I'm not taking that route. Okay, planning is horrible. See, this is busy. What's the book says? Delivery vehicles, ambulance. We saw the ambulance. Construction, yeah. I'm sorry? Absolutely, lots of debris. There was a lot of debris on the road as well. Well, here's the deal. So we've figured out that these hazards exist, and we've figured out that these things are there, and we've a little bit worked on how to identify them and start picking up on them. So what else? Let's go ahead and hone in a little bit on that skill, right? So, recognizing potential hazards. We're going to scan the road. Properly adjust your mirrors to your blind spots. And when you're driving, you want to look 1 to 2 blocks to monitor road conditions consistently. So that's 1 to 2 blocks if you're in the city. 1 to 2 blocks if you're in the city. On the open road, look at the main thing is you want to be paying attention. That's not where you want to look. Action's not going to happen at your front bumper. It's going to be out there. And then this is the big kicker right here, the what if strategy. The what if strategy is simply that. What if that child darts out to get that ball? What if that parked car swings its door open and I slam into it? You know, what if that citizen steps out in front of me paying attention? Or for the bigger utility drivers, what if the car runs that stop sign because they don't want to trailer because of how slow I am? That's all these things that we're going to think about. Now, nobody's trying to make you nervous. Okay, you don't have to play the end of the world game every time you get behind the wheel. But if you decide to make a mental note, you know, I'll do 3 what if strategies and then I'll stop. All right, I'm going to make Bradley Stone happy. I'll do 3 what if strategies a day. I'll stop. But what that's going to do is that's going to make you less distracted, and it's going to make you pay attention to those hazards and be readily available to react. Remember, it's being able to identify the hazard, knowing the right action and being able to perform that action in the right amount of time. There's 3 different pieces to the puzzle, right? And the what-if strategy is one of those things that's going to help. All right, let's just do a little catch-up. Page 24. The deadly choices that we spoke about earlier, speeding, all right, speeding. Speeding is one of the major factors contributing to the occurrence of deaths and property damage related to motor vehicle crashes. It is a factor in more than a quarter of all traffic fatalities. So as I said earlier, speeding or traveling too fast for conditions and following too close for conditions or tailgating, those are that's the number 1 cause of fatal accidents. I think that distracted driving is over. I just don't think that the statistics have caught up yet. So I lump all 3 together. I say together, and then that's why I give you the 3 answers to the test versus the 2. So again, if we take a look at our football chart, and if you remember the equation that we started with earlier, total stopping distance equals perception plus reaction distance plus braking distance. Let's just jump down to the nitty-gritty 70 miles an hour, right? That's what most interstates, the speed limit is now, and most everybody's driving 80. Let's keep it real, right? So if we look down there, this vehicle traveling 70 miles an hour, it takes you on average 180 feet just to realize something's wrong. That's half the football field already, just to even realize there's a problem. Now you got 77 feet for your brain to identify the problem and send the signal to your foot to stop accelerating and start braking. That's another 77 feet. And then your vehicle, just its mechanics, its normal itself, takes another 233 feet to stop for a whopping total of 490 feet. So I don't think we have a football field and a quarter to play with our lives, right? I don't think, especially down in Texas, God, it's like 85 miles an hour down there. Love it, love it. But just pay attention, okay? Moment down to get the check on the roadway. That's what I want you to take away from that. We don't have to get all caught up in this other stuff. But again, responsible and respectful choices related to speed, down at the very bottom of page 24. Determine the safest speed by knowing the speed limit and adjusting your speed based on conditions. We're going to harp that, adjusting your speed based on Notice how I said speeding is also known as traveling too fast for conditions. So if the speed limit's 55, but it's raining, then obviously we know we're going to go 55, right? So that would roll into the speeding category as well, traveling too fast for conditions. Next page, 25. Or actually, excuse me, I'm sorry, I forgot our video. We'll edit that out.
Speeding is number one of the 6 deadly choices that drivers make. In fact, it's one of the most common mistakes and one of the major factors in motor vehicle crash injuries and fatalities. Why is speeding so deadly? It affects your ability to drive safely by taking away your perception time and reaction time in distances, reducing your ability to avoid a crash. Here's the distance your vehicle travels going 30 miles per hour, then 55 miles per hour, and finally 70 miles per hour in under a second. Stopping distance adds up the distance traveled while you perceive the danger, while you react to the danger, and while you brake to avoid a crash. At a high speed, seconds count, and lack of those seconds can kill. Think of the length of a football field. Your stopping distance at 30 miles an hour takes you halfway down the field. At 55, you're almost at the end. And at 70 miles an hour, your stopping distance is a football field and a third. Almost all drivers tend to underestimate this distance and over-rely on their own reaction times. That's the reality of why speed is a leading cause of injury and death on the road. When a car crashes at high speed, it generates a greater kinetic energy, which causes greater damage and reduces the effectiveness protection you get from safety equipment in the vehicle and also from roadway protective structures on the roadway, such as guardrails. No one walked away alive from the crashes you see here. Your decisions, your choices as a driver, can make the difference between life and death. So obey speed limits and pay attention. Because they change, monitor your speed regularly so it doesn't get away from you. And don't be in a hurry. When it comes to speeding, there can be a terrible price to pay.
I keep turning my back on y'all, I'm sorry. I realize I keep looking at that screen more. Okay, 10 minutes till. That is our designated break time. So if you will, take 10 minutes, stretch your legs, wake up, get some water, whatever you want to do. so many different, there'll be so many different ways. Because I wish they would just get rid of this company and this curriculum with the workbook and the, because that's how they make it, this is how they make their money. There's this one. Yeah, it was gone. Is this one working? This is the new one.
It should be on. You don't have it muted, right?
It's not muted on the doohickey. No, it's on.
Yeah, that's the only thing. Like, as long as it's pointing up, it should be fine.
Yeah, that's life. I ain't worried about it. I was just told to do it. It don't.
It's on. I don't see it.
Oh, there it goes. Hello. I know. I'm so sorry.
You're not muted, so try talking.
Can you hear me now? Can y'all hear me on the microphone? It's working though. Hello. Can you hear me now? Maybe I need it closer. I'm just gonna get in my beard. Can you hear me now? No. I just want to get rid of it. I'll just hold it and whisper. Can you hear me right there? This is my normal talking. Like if I could do the rest of the class, this is how I'm gonna talk. I was just seeing if it would pick it up.
Let me see if it picks it up on the stream. Because that's the only thing we need. But it's touching your shirt.
I'm gonna have this one beard hair that's like rubbing it. That's gonna be in the recording. I think the recording's done anyways though with the skipping. What we're looking at time-wise, a couple more minutes. Break is over. 2 minutes. What else? This is so weird. Did they? Yes, I believe it. I'm like that's what I was saying. Half of it. I blacked out the first minutes. I'm not even gonna lie. Pass out, y'all. Yes, it got me good. I was sweating, and yes. Anyways, but I got calm. I'm calm now. I'm good now. I know. No, I think I don't like the recording situation. No, I can. I have no problem doing it. I think they told me, what I was told it was going to get integrated into orientation. And then that's what everybody keeps saying, the 4 hour. They told me that HR is the one that wanted it. That's what Doug told me. HR wanted it for orientation or for ease of getting this out to the employees. I was like, I could have been just coming. Exactly. And I'm like, let's just knock the first one down to 1 hour as well and just have the same thing. And then I'll just come every orientation just like everyone else and just do one just like everyone else. I don't know. I guess it doesn't make sense because it makes sense. That's another thing too. It'd be like, I don't know. Struggle. Well, and especially wait till you see lesson 4. Lesson 4 is 2 slides. So they just call it the 4th lesson in this. So they call it DDC 4 hour because it's actually 4 lessons.
Well, let it be
But it's really not. It's like 3 hours.
that everybody does it.
Well, I want them to do it online. I wish they could just, but I think we're going to have to go with a different vendor because even us recording this and trying to give it out is not, you know what I mean? It violates their copyright shit. But I mean, if we're doing it the way we do it, where I'm the one talking and I'm the one talking, then it's not. You know, we're not reproducing it and giving it out, but we are because we're not paying for every seat that I'm teaching it to. But whatever, it's stupid.
Well, whenever you do the test, let everybody do it together.
Oh no, we're not going to do the test. She's like, well, wait a minute. I'm going to leave then. The test is the.
She's been stressing over it.
The stress. Oh, she's like, this sucker's microphone keeps cutting out. He ain't even teaching half the class, and I got a test. She said, I'm gonna give this man a thumbs down today.
Exactly.
F a high five. No, I'm kidding.
I've been waiting on entertainment.
Oh my goodness. All right, I'm done with this thing then. Fine, let's cut loose then. I'm happy with that.
Picking you up on the screen, so just
Is it?
keep talking
Okay,
until
so just keep running it regular? All right, heck yeah. Okay, break's over. All righty. There we go. Back. No, but that's okay. Time to go. All right, we left off on page 24, so let's go to 25 in the student guide. And we're going to begin driving in road rage. So again, we're going to start with our two definitions. I'll read those verbatim. It's going to make me play the video first. I don't want to play the video first. I want to talk.
We've all had experience from time to time with aggressive drivers. Maybe we've had to fight the desire of hot-tempered driving ourselves. But did you know that aggressive driving can get you a ticket? And an episode of road rage is a criminal offense punishable by license suspension or jail time. Aggressive drivers do things like speed, follow too closely, and weave in and out of lanes. They disrespect other drivers with angry gestures. Aggressive driver behaviors are dangerous and are the cause of many types of collisions. Aggressive driving can escalate into something even more dangerous: road rage. Drivers exhibiting road rage use their vehicles as weapons with intent to harm, making road rage a criminal offense. There are steps we can all take to protect ourselves from aggressive drivers. Stay calm. Use responsible and respectful behavior with other drivers, even when they're not courteous to you. And don't let their behavior tempt you to lose control. Keep to the speed limit, maintain a safe and legal speed, and get out of the aggressive driver's way as soon as you can do so safely. What if the problem is a little closer to home? If you're the one having trouble controlling your emotional choices when driving, then there are 3 key steps to regaining control. We call these the 3 R's. Reflect. Take a mental step back and ask yourself why you're angry and what you can safely do to change the situation. Reframe. Think about the situation you're in there, on the road, and ask yourself what you need to do to stay in control. Finally, refocus. Think about something else and put the situation making you angry well behind you. It's a busy world out there, and we're not going to be able to avoid all the aggressive drivers, but we can control our own behaviors and respond respectfully, responsibly, legally, and safely, no matter what.
I told y'all it was coming, right? The 3 R's. And in the scenario that they use it, it's a road rage. No, ain't nobody 3R'ing. Nobody's I can't even remember it. Reflect, reframe, refocus. There it is. Nobody's doing that, right? So we'll talk about it in our own verbiage. Page 25, right? There's those 2 definitions of our aggressive driving and our road rage. Big takeaway, written in red, one's ticketable, one's criminal, all right? Are you an aggressive driver? Here's another, so real quick, just read over that, please. Take a moment, answer those questions either on the scrap sheet or internally. I don't need anybody sharing the results of this one. Okay. Keep this one to yourself. But again, it's that self-talk that I was saying earlier, right? It's if you know that in a line of traffic makes you angry, that way. Okay. If you have no other choice, leave it a different time or something. Come up with to help you deal with it. If it's that bad, you probably shouldn't be driving. I mean, just to be honest with you. But again, I told you in the video real quick, so we can edit that out, that little pause right there. But met the guy from the video straight up in Charlotte, like not even 2 months ago. I was on the way back from my dental appointment. And again, I typically look at traffic from the eyes of a larger vehicle. right? So if maybe it's a semi-truck with his blinker on, block that lane or individual driving, right? If I see the blinker on, I'll probably hold back and block that lane, let him get over, give him a little flash of the light. You know, I just can see it for them. Because if I go around him, then the next car goes around him, then the next car goes around, he never can get over. Then he's going to force it on, and they're going to think he's the worst person in the world. But he's like, all 8 or 9 cars that I just tried to get over, you know, what? So again, I look at it from that point of view. So that's what's happening. That's the scenario. Big blinker, right? I'm like, okay, I'm going to block this lane and let him get over. Well, he doesn't move. Well, I'm like, well, shit, what's he doing? He's still got his blinker on. And then I'm like, well, I guess he just left his blinker on. So then I go to speed up. Well, then he kind of like swerves now to get over. So I backed off. I'm like, okay, well, I'll let you over again. Nope, doesn't get over. So I'm like, screw this dude. I hit the blinker and I go. Well, when I hit the blinker and looked, that's when I met the guy. Apparently, he had been behind me, not liking what I was doing, which I was not aware of. And I mean, he was letting me have it. He was literally leaning out the passenger window, just screaming at me. And I mean, the window was up. So I let him, couldn't hear him with one of them Hulk Hogan, like, what you, like, I can't hear you, bro. And that's when the assault started happening with the finger. And you know, what can you do? The whole time, now he's supposed to be driving erratically as hell, just swerving into my lane and screaming at me, and then, you know, it carried on for like a good. I felt bad because he never let it go. Because as I the exit, I could see him off in the distance with that finger, and I felt bad because there was this old lady between us, and what did I do? But again, I because I handled it in a humorous way, right? But if I wasn't a humorous person, aggressive manner, and now we have an incident, right, where we have an altercation, or we have a crash, or we're putting everyone in danger with this ridiculous, whatever it is, right? So again, it's over a simple mistake. I was trying to do something right by the vehicle in front of me, who was really not paying attention to what they were doing, and then I wasn't paying attention to the vehicle behind me. So it is what it is. But we can avoid all of that with our 3-second rule, right? What is the 3-second rule, right? The 3-second rule is, and I'll just, without reading the screen, you pick a fixed object, whether it's a trash can, a sign, and when the front of you passes that, you start counting in your head, 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000. You should be passing that same item, right? That's your 3 seconds of buffer space. That's your starting point. Now, as you can see at the bottom, you got your 3-second plus rule. Add more seconds for each imperfect condition. So I've said that over and over and over this morning, right? For every true condition you have, you're going to add a second of following distance. This is what I'm talking about. All right. Any questions over the wrapping up of session 2? Sorry, our break was a little... Page 29 in the student guide. I just got to catch up in my... as well. It's not. All right, so distracted driving. This is my number one thing. I already told you distracted driving is to take over speeding and following too closely. I get on my soapbox on this. I harp on this. I talk this one too. But we'll start off with our 3 definitions on page 29. All right, so there are types of distractions that are classified under National Safety Council as a manual distraction, a visual, and a cognitive. When we get into our 1-hour refresher in 3 years, the next time I'm going to use physical and visual and because that's what our refresher cognitive is. Just it is what it is. But again, manual distractions cause drivers to take their hands off, will cause you to take your eyes off the road. cognitive distractions can cause your mind to go elsewhere. So that's what we're talking about. Now, it says right here on page 29, utilizing your cell phone involves all three, and that's why we like to call it a triple threat distraction. There's no way that you can utilize your cell phone looking at it, touching it, and thinking about what you on it, okay? So in this chapter, what we're going to talk about is different distractions. We're going to talk about what we can do instead of them and how we can eliminate some of these. Again, at the bottom, we'll look at this same football chart. If you remember the one from earlier, we were field and a third. One field and a third at 70 miles an hour in our total stopping distance equation. Now, just to again, in the navy blue is your distracted distance plus total stopping distance equals distance equation. All right, so again, in the navy, that's your distracted distance. In the black, that's your perception distance. Gray is reaction, and green is braking. So we're going to skip right to the nitty-gritty, jumping down to 70 miles an hour. Right, that's your average 4-second distraction. They say most distractions, like let's drop my pen, I pick it up, and I'm back on the wheel. 4 seconds, average. Maybe it's, my phone goes off, I look at it, and like, oh, I ain't trying to talk to her right now. That's your average distraction, okay? So that's 410 feet. So you're already at a football field in a third. That's your complete total. To recognize something was wrong, your brain to send the foot from the accelerator to the brake, and your vehicle to do its mechanical braking function. The whole process that we learned earlier, all of that same amount of time has just been wasted by reaching down and picking up your pen off the floor or looking at that phone and picking it back up. You got your 180 feet. Oh shit, something's wrong. 77 feet of my brain moving my foot over to the brake, and then 233 feet of the mechanical braking distance of the vehicle. Total of 900 feet. So we're looking at 3 football fields is your new 7-mile-an-hour distraction, stopping distance. So think about that every time you take your eyes off the road the next time you're driving 70 miles an hour. It would take 3 football fields to stop. And look how far 3 football fields is. So just put that in.
Distracted driving is a serious danger on the road. We hear with sad frequency about people killed by drivers who were talking on the phone or texting and driving. But there are many types of distractions when you're behind the wheel. Once upon a time, people actually believed that humans were able to multitask. That has been proven to be a myth. Our brains are just not capable of parallel processing the way computers are. When we put attention in one place, we remove it from another, and that's never more true than when we're on the road. There are 3 basic types of distractions. Visual distraction means that you're taking your eyes off the road. Manual distraction means that you're taking your hands off the wheel. And cognitive distraction means that you're taking your mind off your driving. And now you see why cell phones get such a bad rap. Using your phone while driving involves all 3 of those distractions at once. You may think that talking to someone on your cell is no different from talking to the passenger next to you. But research shows that a remote conversation engages a totally different part of the brain. Bottom line, there's no comparison. And that makes the cell phone a triple no-no when you're in the driver's seat. We tend to think of our cars as an extension of our homes, where we can eat, chat, listen to music, enjoy the scenery, maybe yell at the radio. But every single one of these things distracts us from the fact that we are powering a 2-ton vehicle down the road, and our only real objective is to keep our minds on driving and keep our passengers and fellow drivers safe, so we all get where we're going in one piece.
That's right. All right, so distracted driving. All right. I told y'all I like to talk about my wife, right? Okay, and I'm going to. She and she knows I talk about her, so don't nobody get mad or whatever. So people, right? They come out to they get in the car, they put on their seatbelt, they check their mirrors, everything looks good. They put on their whatever they got to do, get where they're going, and they go. Oh, not my wife. She comes to the car like this. And then she stands out the car and she finishes what she's saying or whatever, what she's doing. She gets in the car. Boom. She takes off. After we're on the road, she decides her makeup's messed up, her mirrors ain't straight, she needs to plug in her phone because it's dying. This ain't the Apple Play radio station she want to listen to. The kids is acting up. There's 9 million things that are all of a sudden important right now. No, you know what I'm saying? 18 years in driving, the guy you want next to you distracted driving, okay? Because I'm sitting, I thought I was bad this morning. On a bad day with her fiddling like she's some NASA spaceship controller, messing with all the gizmos and gadgets in the car, you know what I mean? And I'm like, honey, why can't you do this before we leave, you know? So it makes for some interesting conversations on the road. But again, now me, I'm a man, I can admit when I'm wrong, and I do a thing that I do with to text, all right? I love talk to text. I think that it's because my eyes on the road, but it's not, right? So what happens is Google doesn't understand we don't get, okay? What happens is and everything's fine, but then I got to proofread my text. So now I'm, oh, shoot, that's wrong. You see what I'm saying? I'm driving, y'all. So what do? And this is honest truth. I throw it in the floorboard. I just throw it in the floorboard. If I catch myself doing it, I throw it in the floorboard. And that is the truth. So if you just throw it in the floorboard, all right? Get rid of it, all right? Get rid of it. Because again, and we'll talk about it in a little bit, people are dying over stuff like this. So another activity, go ahead and pull out your scrap sheet of paper, and real quick, what I'm gonna do is during the process of this video, write down as many distractions as you can see in the car or things that make you uncomfortable with this video. It happens fast, so pay attention.
News here at 1490 on your AM dial.
No, you got to pick last time. It's my turn. But you always get to choose. I don't care. It's my turn. Dad? Dad!
Cost more than the rain delay harvest in the southern part of the U.S. The demand is also expected.
Can
Recalculating.
I have that one, please? You got it last time.
Wheat futures climbed after the forecast
Yeah.
from Smart.
All right. This side of what you get, what'd you see? Very important. Very important. It's a mess, ain't it? That's my wife's car. Oh, no, you the only one that's ever in the class in a whole. You the only one. Anybody on this side? What you got? Bubbles. Wow. Bubbles. All right. I agree 100% with everything everybody said. Super important. Listen, I'll get her again, y'all. My wife, she the freshie. Who's heard of freshies on the TikTok shop? It's this big, y'all. It's hanging from the mirror. It's a cactus with tassels dangling. I'm like, honey, you don't pull that thing down, I'm gonna sniff it. That thing was $20. Yeah, got you, boo. Anyways, no, I'm kidding. Exactly right, though. What she's saying is 100% true. The more things y'all pulling from your mirror, it's blocking your view. Now you have visual distraction because it's going to swing. And it's not only blocking your view, but it's distracting. You catch a sun glare off of your class of 1997 medal medallion. Next thing you know, you're blind and you're taken back to 97 in a car wreck. All right? No, I'm kidding. Get that stuff. Nobody cares when you graduated, y'all. Okay? Right? Once upon a time, pulled it down. I'm talking in the video, right? Now listen, with that being said, she called out loose items in the car. 17 in the military, and there's a thing that we do during rollover training, heat training. Some people are aware of it, some people are not. Take the chassis and they put it on a spinner, and they strap us in it, and we simulate. It's in the city. And they roll you over, and your job is to first assess the situation, figure out where you're at, check on all your battle buddies, secure yourself, release yourself, assist in getting them down, secure any sensitive items in the vehicle. The vehicle provides security for you and your battle buddies to lay the vehicle to the scene. We train that, practice what to do in the event of a rollover because it saves lives. And one of the things that we train, I'm getting to the point, loose items. All right, every item that you have in the vehicle right now that's not strapped down in the event of that 70-mile-an-hour crash we were talking about becomes right inertia. Items stop. So if I'm going and I stop there, that's not tied down is going too. So what do we carry every single day? I bet some of y'all got one here. Who's got a big Igloo stainless steel water cooler? Or the Stanley, that's the new one, the TikTok. The Stanley, y'all got one. That thing right there will bust your whole face up in a car accident. All right, so be careful. Anything in the vehicle, you going on a long trip, you got kids in the car, strap it down or get it outside the vehicle, okay? So that's the main thing that I want you to take away from that. Seat belts, yes, the girl didn't have her seatbelt on, so we talked about occupant safety in the very beginning. Do that 360 side of the cab, right? You're looking around, you're making sure everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing. Say that again? Oh, yes, thank you for bringing that up. The kids are arguing in the back all the time. We got to get on the mind all the time. You know what they try to do? Mama, look. Mama, look. Look at this. Mama, look. Like, girls, she can't look. She's driving. But you know how she looks? What? I'm like, God almighty, y'all. Anyways, I'm the wrong one. I'm the wrong one. Look. It's bad. That's what I do. That's what I do. You know what she does? She reaches in her purse and gives me my noise-canceling headphones. She's like, put them on and go to sleep. I got it. And we always get there alive. If I want to stay married, I got to be quiet sometimes. You know what I'm saying? All right. Let's page. All right, so let's talk about another deadly choice, vehicle and lane management. All right, so another deadly choice is making improper turns. Right? Making an improper turn is the leading cause of a preventable collision on our road. General guidelines for safe turns: know where you're going, get in the correct turning lane in advance, use your signal, yield to pedestrians and oncoming traffic, and turn into the proper lane.
What do we mean when we talk about vehicle and lane management? It means the choices we make on the road. Every time you make a turn, change lanes, pass other vehicles, and navigate intersections, you're using vehicle and lane management. So where can this go wrong? There are 3 deadly choices when it comes to vehicle and lane management: making an improper turn, driving left of center, and violating the right-of-way. Let's watch a driver during a commute and observe the types of driving choices we make. Choices that can turn deadly in a split second. But when done right, you get where you're going.
right, so again, same thing as the distractions, right? It's when you make a vehicle or a lane change, you have to make a turn. It's part of driving. Same with distractions. Nobody expects you to drive with the window frozen because you can't adjust climate control because it's a distraction, right? If I take my hands and eyes off the wheel to adjust my thermostat, that's a distraction. It's a good distraction, though. It's a necessary one. You can't do without it. So the same thing with driving. There's no way that you're going to be able to drive without violating the 6 deadly choices at a time. Again, collisions are one of the biggest causes of fatal accidents, creators of collisions, if that makes sense. What does an improper turn look like? For a right and left turn, it's any turn that's going into the wrong lane, out of turn, or violating the right-of-way. So for example, and here's where I'll get on my soapbox again. If you're sitting in a multi-lane intersection, for instance, if you could picture in Cold Springs, that intersection right there happens all the time. I'm sitting at the red light, coming from Locust. I want to go to Concord. It's a green light. I can take a left. Way has a red light, but he can turn right on red, correct? Who wants to go? We both can go. It's multi-lane. We should both go at the same time. But what happens? The person across the street is going to turn into my lane every time, and then they're going to get back over in their lane. And so it's an illegal turn. It's an improper lane change. There's probably 3 or 4 different traffic violations they could be cited with, but everyone does it. So that creates a culture now to where that person, even though they have the green light, they're going to wait for that person to go and take a so that person's in the wrong. And so what that does is that slows the flow of traffic, which defeats the purpose of the rule in the first place, which is to create a positive flow of traffic and keep the cars moving. That's why you're allowed to turn right and red. But again, it is what it is. So moving on from turns to page 32 for passing and overtaking, we have another set of definitions. All right, passing, and I got to read this kind of slowly because it's wordy. Passing is when a vehicle moves out, around, and in front of another vehicle on a 2-lane road where the traffic lanes are moving in opposite directions. All right, if that makes sense. Overtaking is when a vehicle moves ahead of, in front of another vehicle on a road where the traffic lanes are moving in the same direction. All right, again, maybe it was going too slow and you're on a multi-lane road and you're traveling in the same direction, that's overtaking. And then passing would be on a 1-lane road where you're crossing over the yellow center line. Difference in passing and overtaking. One is crossing over the center line, is not. Makes sense. Now, passing and overtaking improperly can lead to various serious consequences, including sideswiping, running someone off the road, or getting into a head-on collision, which again is why it's one of our 6 deadly choices. Now, when passing and overtaking, up here and in your book is the 10 steps passing and overtaking. You want to ask yourself, is the pass, do I need to pass? Like you're only going to save a few seconds of time. You can get around that vehicle and get in front of them. So is it really necessary? Are you going to benefit in some form? Is it safe and legal? Am I about to make an illegal pass? Am I on a double yellow line? Use this 3-second rule. Scan ahead and look behind. You always want to check your blind spots. Then, 5 steps in, are you going to use your signal, right? Your signal, what does that do? That informs everyone around you of your intentions. So you can't put on as you're getting over. You got to let it sit for a second, right? Move out and increase speed, but not over the speed limit. Signal when returning back to your lane when there is enough space. Turn off your turn signal, and then maintain your speed after passing. That is 10 steps on how to properly pass and overtake a vehicle, in case you were wondering, and can be found on page 32. It's the best. All right, so on page 33, deadly choice, driving left of center. So driving left of center means crossing the center line of a roadway. When a vehicle crosses the center line, it puts the driver and other vehicles at risk of the most fatal type of traffic incident, a head-on collision. Tips for avoiding highway, that makes sense, right? The more time you notice something, the more time you have to react to it. If we're standing, like we said, as far as the eye can see, hey, there's something in the road that doesn't look right, and maybe you have one of those fancy new cars that won't let you swerve out of the way of something. You put your blinker on, fool everybody behind you into thinking you're getting over, right? Again, we're just dodging. We're identifying a roadway hazard, and if we can identify it, it's coming, maybe we can change lanes, or maybe we could turn that happens prior to whatever that hazard is. If it's a very hazard you can't get through, of course we need to find an alternate route. Driving all the way up to the hazard is going to do nothing for us except get us trapped. We came into that situation a lot last week, especially out in the Locust area with all the rain. Several roads I went down, and then I found that the road was passable because over. So that's another one of those times where scanning as far ahead is going to pay dividends. All right, again, adjusting driving speed for. Of course, anytime we have an unimproved condition, we're going to reduce that speed, we're going to reduce the distractions, and increase our following distance. Making safe and legal turns will help us avoid driving left of center, and staying behind pedestrians and bicyclists until there's enough room to pass. We've all faced that before. You got a couple of bikers in the road, maybe they're bicyclists or whatever the fact that they're doing, maybe they're runners, and we want to go around, but we just can't quite make it, so we're just going to force. Inevitably, that car comes over the hill. That's that situation where they're talking about. You're trying to pass an individual or individuals comes into your lane, excuse me. Couldn't find the word. And again, scanning for animals, that's another problem we have out there where I live. There's constantly animals in the road. Right now it's skunks, out of control. Again, you know, I always say this, I shouldn't say it. A squirrel wants to commit suicide, let them, okay? Because the only thing that they're gonna see is your word versus the insurance police. You're in the ditch, your car's totaled, you need an excuse. What better excuse? Well, Bambi was in the road and I didn't want to kill him, so Bambi's not sticking around for, right? So, in the spirit of you not risking your career and your future and you got to take the animal out, you know? If your car gets totaled and the animal's at the accident, now you have proof. I hate to say it that way. Ditch. Speed limits, they're probably going to hit you with some type of distracted driving because that's why you lost control of the vehicle. Failure to maintain control of the vehicle. Several different charges, all because you wanted to do the right thing, right? All right, so moving on, they give you another acronym. The 4 R's of avoiding a head-on collision are read the road ahead, drive to the right, meaning push over to the right side of the lane. That's the safest place to go because if you go left, center and you're facing a head-on collision. Reduce your speed, and then the last chance, the very last thing is ride off the road. That's the last thing you want to do. So again, on 33, about midways down, there's your 4 R's. They go into depth. The only one I really want to talk about is ride off the road. That's the only thing that we haven't discussed today. So if you have to choose between a head-on collision or riding off the shoulder, your chances of survival are much better on the shoulder. Now I'm down in the teal box at the bottom. If you must ride off the road, drive to the right. Drive to the right onto the right shoulder and away from oncoming driver. Do not drive left into his or her lane. If the driver recovers, you will have a collision in that lane, right? So in that event, driver is in your lane. You're in the right lane, someone's in your lane. Do not, what it's saying is do not go into their lane you're the one that caused it because you left your lane. Driving off the road. Don't swerve or skid. Reduce your speed gradually to maintain your on the brakes or swerve the vehicle. That's common sense. Unfortunately, that's what we see typically. Whenever a vehicle runs off the edge of the road or leaves the roadway surface, will typically be startled and have a knee-jerk reaction of snatching the wheel, which will then create an overcorrection. And that's typically why you'll see a lot of cars that run off the right side of the road, they actually wind up crashed on the far left side because they've snatched and and now they're crashed over there. Next thing, hit soft, not hard. If you have to choose between hitting something soft, such as bushes or shrubbery, or hitting something hard, such as a tree, first choose to hit something soft. Common sense. Again, we're talking in the worst case scenario. You have no other choice. You have to leave the roadway. Don't aim for the tree, all right? It's not the place to go. That's all they're saying. And balancing blow. So if you could imagine, here's something, an object, a thing. If you hit it, you're going to dead stop, and that's going to be the worst case scenario. But if you glance into it and kind of slow your inertia, then you're more likely to survive with less injuries than a full-on head-on collision, is all that last bullet is saying. But again, we're not going to need this because we're what? We're not distracted, and because we're going to reduce our speed, we're going to reduce our following distance, we're going to Are we on break? We've got a few more minutes. All right, so real quick, I meant to give one for the first video and I failed. This is another one of those videos that it does go in a little bit negative. They talk about a fatality. So I apologize for forgetting the warning this morning.
I got a call from a very panicked neighbor, and she told me that my wife, Judy, and our son, Joe, 12-year-old son, Joe, had been in a crash. Judy was in an ambulance, and I went up to her and I talked to her first, and she was shook up but okay, but she said, please check on Joe. And I went back to the car, and he was trapped in the car, and the paramedics and firefighters were trying to get him out, and he wasn't breathing. They had no blood pressure, and it was obviously a very, very bad situation. He was on life support for probably about 12 hours. He never regained consciousness, and at about 4 in the morning, he died. And we found out later that a young lady was talking on a cell phone, looking straight out the window, ran a red light in broad daylight, didn't hit the first car that was passing in front of her. Judy was the third or fourth car. You lose a child and it changes your life forever. It's been 6 years now as we do this interview, and it's still painful every single day. I think of Joe every single day. I miss him terribly.
Or discuss the deadly of violating the right-of-way. Things that talking about the intersection, and we're going to dig deeper into that in just a second. Real quick, at the bottom of 34, it says, when it comes to the right-of-way, the reality is no one has the right. Traffic regulations only state who must yield the right-of-way. So it's very weird. Everybody's like, oh, fair to yield, fair to yield. I have the right-of-way. Here first, I have the right-of-way. So again, the way it's written in the citation you'll receive is that you failed to yield the right-of-way because nobody owns the right-of-way. The laws are written to who must yield or give it to them. It's not an entitlement. It's something that someone has to give to you, but there's laws on it. So again, this course or this part of the course is going to discuss any intersections, and there's a acceleration technique that I'm going to show you after we discuss the video. Essentially what happened, right, is there are 3 vehicles back at an intersection. Same scenario where they're at the right place, doing the right thing, they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. Light turns green, no big deal. First 3 cars go through, and this person is pulling the light so bad, 3 cars deep into the green light. All right, so that. Well, they've created this technique. It's called the delay technique. Essentially, what that states is, if I'm the red car, right, first in line, light turns green, I don't just punch the gas, right? Because, you know, the light could have changed. Somebody could be, there might be somebody that's trying to run the red light. Same scenario, the person's probably fixing their auto text, talk-to-text correction, and not looking up, and now they're blowing through the red light and crashing people, right? So all they're saying is, second, just wait. And you already do this. Everyone already does it. You sit at that, you're looking, They're going to stop. Delayed acceleration technique. They just put a on it, okay? Everybody does it. My wife always. I ain't gonna let myself get hit, but she will. She'll wait and wait and wait. But that's good. I mean, she's got a good delayed acceleration technique. But same thing in her scenario. She car back, right? So, well, what do you do if you're the third car back? And this brings us into two very important things. So, imagine on the white car, same thing. Light turns green, red car, boom, takes off as fast as they can. All you're going to do is you're going to stop your vehicle to where you can see the back tires is still touching the pavement of the car in front of you. What that's going to do is create space for your bumper and the hood in the front end of the car. All right, if you can see their tires. I'll talk about why in a second. And then you're going to do the same thing. 1,000, 1,000. Anybody coming in hot? Nope, coast clear. And you're going to carry on about your business. We're not talking about sitting there so long that the light turns yellow and then you speed off and then the next person gets caught by the red. We're just saying, take a moment, look, make sure the coast is clear. All right? I like to pause and I like to bring up another thing about this, delayed acceleration. 1 hour refreshers. Stop bumper to bumper with a car. I understand being in a turning lane, it being a tight fit, and there's situations just like distractions where it's inevitable. But on a perfect regular just red light, never go bumper to bumper. You're not giving yourself any escape space right here. You want to have 360 degree of buffer around your vehicle. What that little bit of space can do, one, you can look in your rearview mirror. Maybe someone's coming in hot from behind you. All right, and they're like, hey, I don't think that joker's going to stop in time because they're probably on their own, right? Triple threat distraction. That gives you a little bit of space to where if you need to veer off and get out of their way, they can crash to the person in front of you, right? Them. I'm going to get out of the way, right? Again, in the society that we live in, it's very unfortunate. Carjackings, robberies, murders, they happen, kidnappings, all kind of things. If you're sitting there and you're close to the vehicle in front of you, all it would take is a vehicle of people behind you that want to do you harm to pull right up behind your bumper, and now you're completely trapped. You're at the mercy of your vehicle. You're stuck in a 10-ton vehicle that you can't get out of. So again, just think the delayed acceleration technique, that should be all the time, leaving that buffer space. It'll help in crashes and it'll help in emergency situations. Don't get excited. We're not talking about booze just yet. No, I'm just kidding. All right, real quick, we're going to take our 10-minute break before we get into the next session. I'm a little ahead of schedule. We're not doing some of those activities. Everybody good? Is that long enough? I felt like I should have looked at the start time. All right, so moving along, we're on page 37 in the student guide.
It's easy to toss numbers around. I could tell you that 28% of traffic fatalities involve the presence of alcohol, or point out that drug-related fatalities are on the rise, with over 44% of fatally injured drivers testing positive for drugs, especially marijuana, opioids, or a combination of the two. But take a look. This is the human face of what impaired driving costs us as family members, friends, and as a society.
Impaired driving is the unsafe operation of a motor vehicle as a result of the use or ingestion of impairing substances, which can include alcohol, drugs, or a combination of both. Alcohol is the one that we hear most frequently about, but there are other substances that can also impair an individual's ability to operate a motor vehicle in a safe fashion. That includes illicit substances, as well as prescription medications, and even some over-the-counter medications. But with the combination of certain substances, and research supports that with marijuana and alcohol, you can have an additive effect or potentially a synergistic effect. That synergistic effect is more of a multiplier, which means that when you combine those substances together, the impairment is dramatically increased, and so is the crash risk. One of the other things that's really important to remember if you're taking even substances that are prescribed legally is that they can often impair your driving ability. It's often easy to discern whether or not somebody may be under the influence. And if you suspect that that's the case, you should not get into the vehicle with them. If you feel as though you're impaired, you should not be driving. But the challenge is that oftentimes when we use impairing substances, it affects our judgment. So we can't always rely on ourselves in that moment to make the correct choice. So the best possible advice is to avoid putting yourself in a situation where you might have to make that decision. You can use a taxi, you can have a designated driver, you can use ride sharing, which is popular everywhere. There are a lot of alternatives. Impaired driving is completely preventable. This is a criminal act that can be avoided. Think about how life can change in an instant and the profound impact that that can have. So it's on the individual to make the best possible choices. And when we're talking about that in the context of impaired driving, it's really about planning ahead, avoiding negative situations, making sure that you have alternatives. It's really as simple as that.
Everybody agree with that? It really is as simple as that, right? I mean, honestly, if you really think about it, you know, I've been in situations several times, plan a nice dinner out, you sit down, we love to eat at Mexican restaurant, love it, right? And then what comes next? It's the salsa, the queso, and it's like, oh man, I really would love a margarita right now, but so does wife. She wants one too. So it's one of those things, you know, one, you can have one, we live right there, it's no big deal. Don't play that game, all right? Don't play that game. Discuss a little bit here. So I'll discuss the things that they talk about, and I'll talk about some of the stuff as it relates to the City of Concord and being an employee here at the City of Concord, and we'll kind of go with that. But as you can see on page 37 of your book, the top right, they want you to look at that acronym, RUA, right? RUA, first two acronyms, RU. The defense. Then off to the left, they've got a little bit of gray. That's your mind, right? And then your body has to act in time. What I want you to understand is that if you're impaired, right, and your brain can't recognize the hazard correctly, and your brain can't understand the defense because you've been doctoring it up a little bit, then your body's not going to act correctly in time, all right? That any type of impaired driving is okay. So again, there's different types, there's all different things, and really means you've done anything wrong, but we're kind of really, I don't like to spend a lot of time on the obvious ones, the ones that are zero tolerance. Not showing up to work, popping a couple shooters, and driving a Concord City vehicle around, right? That's common sense. There's a zero tolerance for that, okay? Did give us the synergism to page 38. I'm going to talk about prescription over-the-counter drugs, okay? You, as a driver for the city of Concord, have a responsibility, not to yourself, and I believe that every driver has that responsibility. Anything, any substance, from caffeine to whatever, nose to medication to narcotics that are, it doesn't matter. You have a responsibility to understand how that product or that medication or whatever it is, substance affects you and your ability to operate a vehicle. Most of the products that you're consuming actually have instructions, directions, and warnings right there on the label. So make sure you read them. What are you responsible for? You have to come to work and say, boss, my doctor just put me on this narcotic medication. I have to take this medication. I can't drive. You don't have to do that, right? We have a HIPAA laws. We have privacy laws, right? You don't have to do that. Your boss can't demand, you better tell me what you're taking, da-da-da. No, that's not how it works. What you can do and what you do have a responsibility to do is to make an appointment at the wellness center, tell them what kind of medication you're on and the effect that it has, and just get a doctor's note. It doesn't have to be like a light duty, limited duty, taking a medication because I'm injured and I want to come to work, I just can't drive. That's my driving foot. And I'm on a medication that can impair my ability to drive. I just get a light duty note, advisor, that's done. I've done my part and now everybody's safe and happy. What happens is when you don't say anything, you say, oh, I'll be all right. I'm gonna tough it up. I'm gonna be good. I'm gonna work. And you doze off and crash into something, popping painkillers for 2 days. That's when you have a problem, okay? So notice that there's the right way and then there's the wrong way, okay? Right way, hit the wellness center, get a doctor's note, take it. All right, same thing. If you're taking a medication, do not operate heavy machinery. That little sticker that's on that pill, same as a doctor's note. It's the same. That's your note. That's what you're not supposed to do. So just like your supervisor has no nose and you have the right way to handle that, you also as well. Okay, so we're not taking a whole bunch of NyQuil or, sleeping medication and then coming to work, right? Doodly doodly doo. Page 39, page 39. All right, so this is going to be the summary of session 3. Every behavior is a choice. You can only control your own behavior. So if you want to take a screenshot, this is pretty much this whole class summed up in one. I'm just saying. All right, it talks about all the it talks about the key points that we went over in the classroom today discussing these, and then it also at the bottom in green gives friendly reminders and things to keep in mind. I typically will run through this without it. Session 4. I will let you know session 4 is in a session we're probably 10 minutes out. Drowsy driving. So drowsy driving is on page 41. Drowsy driving is being fatigued, while driving is impaired driving. Being fatigued while driving is impaired driving. Fatigue affects our judgment, reduces our awareness, and slows our reaction times. Signs of fatigue include reduced reaction, clear decision-making, diminished energy, apathy, and not remembering the last mile driven. All right, so has anybody ever had that scenario where you get to work, you can park, probably ran every single one of them jokers. Yeah, highway hypnosis. It's a real thing, all right? And fatigued, tired, or you've been driving without brakes for a very long period of time. That's what I did in the military, and I can tell you it is real. There's really times where you'll just, and then the next thing you know, you don't know how many miles you've gone whatever it fix for today. There's no, it says it up coffee. There's no no-dos. There's no roll the windows down and blare the cold air and smoke 7 Marlboros in a row, you know. It's not going to work, okay? It'll work for the moment, but you're still going to crash. It is inevitable. So what do you pull over, you take a 15 to 20 minute rest. Get out of the driver's seat. You don't want to sleep in the same place you're driving. You don't want to sleep in the same position you're driving. Go to bed laying 10 toes up like you did last night in bed. It's not going to work. Right, you want to do is get out of that seat, get into the passenger seat, recline as best you can, and stick to 15, 20 minutes. Anything longer than that, your body's going to want to go into that REM type sleep cycle, and you're going to wake up and be even more tired than you were before. All right, one more set of scenarios. So grab out your scratch sheet of paper. Or excuse me, I'm sorry, you don't need your scratch sheet of paper. This is a
Our first situation that could
exercise.
turn hazardous involves the first of the 6 deadly choices: speeding. This woman is speeding because she's late to work. Identify the hazard and make your choice.
All right, what do we got going on? What's our hazard? Anybody? All right, we got some type of emergency situation going on with a vehicle, right? Another useway. It happens all the time, right? So what's our options? Are we going to proceed as is? Veer left or reduce our speed? Okay. All right, by our courteous decision to identify the hazard because we're paying, we already used our what if strategy. What if this vehicle bursts into flames, combustion? Holy cow, it just happened. What do? We reduced our speed. All right, that allowed that driver the time it needed to activate his warning signals, slow his vehicle down, and proceed off to the roadway, just as we were taught to do. Right? Awesome, good deal. Let's see what happens if we don't. I know you're curious. You never want to veer right. You want to take the right. By veering to the left, you could wind up in a worse collision scenario than you began. And if we proceed as is, probably on the phone, not paying attention, right? They're not looking. Outstanding, good job. Second scenario.
The next scenario is aggressive driving. Imagine you're in that first car, driving the speed limit, but being pushed to your own limit by the guy in the car behind you. What do you do?
Yeah. You want your job? You want your job? You come out like Yosemite Sam on them, son. No. Okay, we're going to reduce our speed and move over, right? Yeah, when in doubt, get out the way and let them go, right? Just let them go. Somebody else's problem. In the event, this day and age, next thing you know, you'll wind up on the news. But what if we did? If you speed up, the only thing that's going to do is, one, you're possibly going to violate the law, right? Now you're in a position where you're speeding, and chances are you'll be the one that gets caught. That's how I get it next day. Everyone doing the same thing I did. Cop sitting right there, doesn't even care, right? That's just how, I don't have no cop here, do I? I should be quiet. I should be quiet. Just thought that. Know your audience, right? No, I'm playing. But again, if you speed up, all it's going to do is it's going to enable that behavior, because there, you give an inch, they take a mile, right? You speed up, they keep coming. You speed up, they keep coming. Just again, the same thing with correct. We're going to reduce our speed, and we're going to one of them. So they honk the horn, and then now they're going to slam on brakes, and now you've got a whole type of altercation. Here's a good one. And by good, I mean not.
Driving under the influence. It's a common problem. A few drinks, no big deal. This man thinks he's fine to drive, but his friend is worried. What's the right choice here?
The thing about me is I think I actually drive a little better when I got a buzz on, you know?
That's more than a little buzz. Hey, look, I don't think you should be driving, so why don't you come back in and we could get you a ride home? You can come pick up your car tomorrow.
Man, I say I'm good to go, I'm good to go, you know?
All right. Hey, he makes a good point, right? He drives better after a couple drinks. Who else said that before? Maybe Pool? I shoot pool better when I've had a couple of beers. Throwing darts. I thought I throw better when I've had a couple of beers. Same with both. But there's that window. It's just a window. There's a window. No, but it's not for driving or operating heavy machinery, right? So in this scenario, what do we do? Right. It don't become the who's the DD. It's the who's the LDD, the least drunk driver, right? No, we don't do that. Let's go on and call a ride share.
I'm gonna call you a ride, okay? And you're paying for it this time. All right, make sure you give me a text message when you get home.
All right, man, appreciate it.
It ain't even sundown, y'all.
Yep.
He's struggling. He had a bad day. There you go. That's the right answer. He took care of his friend, right? He made sure he got in the vehicle, and he made sure he got home.
Make sure you buckle up.
Or you just take them home, right? If you and you have the ability to take care of them. Again, we all know what happens if you let them drive home themselves, over, or they wind up killing somebody or themselves. Last one.
Distracted driving is a problem on the road that we face pretty much every day. This woman is heading home when she gets a call from her father, who's in a nursing home. Is something wrong? She's worried. What should she do next?
Hey, state of North Carolina, you can pick that up all day long, right? We're good. We're good. I'll bring it, right? Let's tie it back to the city of Concord real quick. What the city of Concord's is for phone use while on in a vehicle owned by the city of Concord? I'm sorry? Okay. Anybody else hear the same thing? So I'm not going to go against the supervisor. I'll tell you what the personnel policy says in North Carolina state law. It mimics the North Carolina state law. So they have a thing where you can add to, but you can't take away. The city can't have their own laws that violate North Carolina laws, right? So if North Carolina law said no cell phones, and the city was like, you can use your phone while you're driving our vehicle. They didn't do it, and they didn't take it away. So strongly discouraged. It is very highly discouraged. And other departments may say, hey, not allowed to phone while you're driving the vehicle. So if that's what you've been told, stick to that. All right, I don't think anybody should use the phone. But it is very strongly discouraged. Fast forward your career, a year, you're in the IRB, you're sitting there, you're driving, you had a phone call, but you also had a passenger in the passenger seat. You had another option, right? They could have took the phone call, or you could have waited. You could have done like the lady in the video did. She chose not to answer it, and she pulled off to the side of the road, and then she answered. You could always do that as well. There are other options, all right? The main thing, like I said, we're going to reduce our distractions, we're going to reduce our speed, and reduce our following distance, and we're going to make it here alive, right? All right, so bring it back. That the last activity they want us to do for the curriculum is to pull back out that very first assessment that you did. The very first that had the 10 of your driving behaviors. Perfect score was a 40 out of 40. Did anybody get that? She said, yeah, you know I did. I'm kidding. 40 out of 40 is the worst score. So if you raise your hand, I'm going to take a note of that. Don't pass that person. All right, so now that you've been educated, we understand the hazards. We understand how to identify the hazards. We've talked about the appropriate actions when those hazards are identified. And we've talked about not being distracted and being of sound body and mind where we in the correct amount of time. So with all new defensive driving knowledge that you have, go ahead and take a moment, read each item, and come up with an alternate behavior choice off to the side. You don't have to write it down, just in your head. Tell yourself, hey, I exceed the speed limit. I will no longer do that, right? I will drive a vehicle without seatbelt. I put number 3 all the time. My kids are, Dad, truck's dinging again. Put your seatbelt on. Oh, okay. Yeah, you're right. You're right. So that's all they want you to do. Now that you've been educated, go. What I will ask you to do is if you're done with all your course materials, if you would just pass them on down and set them to the first empty chair at the end of your row, the center. I'll pick them up when everyone's gone. I'm going to straighten all the classroom and everything up. Can we turn this thing off? No. I'll close that out.